really is inside of you, you know?
But like again, like that realization only comes from age and tripping and falling. And
Comes with that, yeah.
speaking of tripping and falling, Monster. So you finish the song, and then do you give it to Justin to add a verse to, or do you have what he's going to do already done?
We wrote Monster like the same couple weeks we wrote Song for No One 3 years ago. And I wrote it with Daniel Caesar and Mustafa the Poet and Frank Dukes.
Cool.
And it was really about how society puts celebrities up on a pedestal. Then 3 years goes by, and I'm like just for some reason in touch with Justin after a long time. We've known each other, but we're never really close. And I'm like, yo, like, and we're talking, like, we just hop on a FaceTime call and we end up speaking on FaceTime for like 3 hours. And this was probably this was during the quarantine.
Oh wow.
And yeah. And then we end up like speaking more and more every single day. And I'm like, hey, I have this song. I think it's really special. I think I want to have it on the album. And he listened to it and completely understood it and then sent back the thing. And I'm really a firm believer for, I mean, I could say like since I was 15, I would have wanted to do a song with Justin Bieber. He was one of my biggest inspirations as a kid, and it really does happen when it's supposed to happen if you let that be the case. And waiting until this moment where we had something that's a really kind of so deeply meaningful feels so much better, and our friendship is so strong at the moment because of it. And I don't know if that would have happened a couple years ago.
Totally. And also like y'all have matured in a very interesting way. Like you've
Yeah.
progressed.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like both of us have grown a lot, and he has said some of the most inspiring things to me that I think you can hear from people, but when you hear from another artist who's been doing the same thing as you for a few years longer than you, it resonates that much deeper. And he's really coming from music at a place that's like, do this because it moves people, do this because it changes people's lives. And I know that, but like to have someone constantly reassuring that to me was super empowering during this process for me and him. But the interesting thing about Monster is that I started to realize that social media was making everybody a celebrity. Like 50 years ago, or even like, I don't know, even like 20 years ago, only celebrities knew what it was like to take a photo and then be like, oh, I hope a lot of people like this. I hope a lot of people think this is good. I hope people don't think I look weird. Like, it feels like every single person now, if you have Instagram or Twitter, is suffering with that same thing. And it's like this crazy pedestal that everybody is putting each other up on and everybody's tearing each other down from. And
Gross.
it's not even real life. I mean, being a celebrity is like the highlight reel of art. Like all music videos and everything you see of a celebrity is a highlight reel. It's like the Instagram before Instagram was created was celebrity content.
Yeah.
And then Instagram got created and it became the highlight reel of everyone's lives. And not everybody, a lot of people are very honest and genuine on it, but even then there's a tinge of highlight reel. And it's hard. I know, as like a 22-year-old with like 3 therapists, and I've read all of the self-help books, and I meditate and I take time and I go on walks and I do everything in my power to not be controlled by what other people think about me. If I spend 5 minutes on Instagram, I'm looking at how many likes my last photo had.
Do you try to avoid social media as much as possible, or you still find yourself on it a lot?
I do. I definitely do. I set limits for myself big time. And it also depends on like what you're looking at on social media, because social media isn't a bad thing. It just, there's some things on it that hurt, but I can't imagine, for instance, like 15-year-old me. Social media was there, but it wasn't as like relevant as it is now. 15-year-old me having to deal with the pressures of, like, for instance, I have a 17-year-old sister and she has 1.1 million followers on Instagram.
That's
By the
too
way, she is the smartest, coolest, and most sweet girl in the whole world. Like, she's so strong that it amazes me every day. But I can't imagine what that pressure feels like for her. And she doesn't have all of the therapists that I pay and have every day. You know what I mean?
Did
It's a
she
big
ask for any of
thing.
it?
No, I mean, she didn't ask for any of it, but she's just one of so many 17-year-olds who have tons and tons of followers and are basing a lot of the things that they think are great in their life off of social media. So, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough world, and I really was just trying to make a point with that song, which was like everyone's got to first of all realize that as humans, we're really messy and we fall and we mess up and we say the wrong things and we're literally doing every single thing in our power to be good and we still mess up, and the pressure that everyone's putting on each other to not is silly and wrong and not helpful. And that was kind of it, and I was hoping that if that was coming from Justin and I, people would maybe it would go further, you know, but I
And
don't know.
oh, it resonates.
Yeah.
Do you think your videos would have gained the same traction today if you were releasing them and making them than that they did like
Oh, like,
all
yeah,
those years ago?
I
Because
don't know.
there's like an like to your point of like, and I talk about this with my own friends, and like there's such a glossiness to social media that it's like so glossy that it's fake and it's plastic. But there was this beautiful charm to videos like ones that you were producing of people just setting up in their bedroom, looking into the camera, and just giving it their all. You know, like there was no effects, there was nothing big. It wasn't, you know, there wasn't anything insane. It was just wholesome, real content, and it was based on, you know, the quality of somebody's voice and their interpretation of a song.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know if I would have been even tech savvy enough to figure out how to use TikTok at this today. Like, there's so many effects and stuff you can put on those videos. I probably would have just posted the same thing. But I think true talent always shines through, regardless of the way it's being processed. It'll always kind of shine through and be there. But yeah, social media is a tricky one for me. It's a very tricky one.
You mentioned true talent, and I'm not saying other people on social media aren't talented, but do you think because of your talent is the reason you were able to take your career from Vine into selling out arenas?
I think that that was my goal. I really think that people underestimate their own power of goal setting and manifestation of the life that they want to have and they want to live and the person that they want to be. And these days, my goals are a lot more in to be, you know, be happy, be kind, be a loving boyfriend and son and friend. And that's a lot of my goal setting. But back then, a lot of my goal setting was sell out the Rogers Center, play my first arena tour, like go da 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 da. And I wrote it in a book, and it
Are you
was
still
in my
using that journal?
yeah. But it's different now. It's formed into something new, and but those visions sit in your mind, and you dream about them, and it comes into fruition, and there's a lot of power in that. So I think talent has a lot to do with it. I think timing has a lot to do with it. I think sheer desire and want to be successful and to do something great had a lot to do with it.
Look up at the stars. You mentioned having angels all around you. I feel like
Yeah.
that there is a connection point there. You know, do you genuinely believe that? Is that positive energy? Is that just, you know,
I I wrote that song to the fans, and you know, I think for a few for a long time, whether or not, I don't know if they felt this way, but like I felt disconnected from the music industry and kind of in my own bubble with just them, and we were just like doing our thing. And I always felt that the best thing I think I ever did with the fans. I love the shows, everything, but I would do Q&As every day, and there would be like 150 people in the Q&A, and it would be like these really in-depth conversations. And the people that were coming to the shows were people that I would go and see at a Q&A, like in terms of what they wanted to talk about, and the girls and the questions they had, and the things that we would talk about were so inspiring to me and so honest and so much love. And I really felt on stage like invincible because I knew nobody was there to judge. Everyone was there to love and to just have fun. And I never said that to them. And I never really made that clear. And I guess I am now for the first time. And in that song, really kind of just being so thankful for having them around me this whole time. I take for granted the fact that people allow me to grow and to just experience life, you know. So that song is a dedication to them.
That-
What do I say in the second verse? I go, finally we met. Now the lights are set. It's taken us till now to be together in this town. A couple of years we've been making plans. Somehow you always seem to understand. So let's get lost in Wonderland tonight. It's kind of like me having to have these shows and then cancel these shows because of whatever, and have a show in this country and cancel the show, and 3 years later I finally make it and they still show up.
By the way, the build to that guitar just hits the core. It is
That's talented name Mercer.
bravo. You know, you mentioned canceling shows, and I watched your documentary, and you're crying, the fans are crying, I'm crying. You have my longtime friend Eric Vitro on FaceTime. You have the famous Dr. Nassarian on phone. I mean, I give you a lot of credit for showcasing, you know, I know these people because I have friends who do this. And like when Eric was talking about, you know, somebody pushing themselves at a show and then having to get, I know that person.
Yeah.
There's many people, I know like two of them.
Yeah.
It is like so real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the utmost respect to you for showcasing that, because
Thank
that is painful.
Yeah, it's also, I think I mean I'm doing it right now, but I always feel the need to explain why it's so emotional, and there shouldn't need to be an explanation because
No.
yeah, but I really think like a lot of singers would agree, a lot of artists would agree that like for instance, like my voice is my spirit, that's my soul, that's my craft, that's my love, that's my success, that's my well-being. Like my voice is such a deep rooted part of me and has been since such a young age that when I lose it, it feels like I'm losing a real part of my spirit. And that's what felt like was happening in those moments. And you don't you can never understand what it feels like to stand in front of 60,000 people who are excited to be there until you've done it. And you can't understand what it feels like to cancel and upset 60,000 people until you've done it. And it was just a lot of stress and it was a lot of pressure. And I saw footage of the girls outside after the show crying, and it was just like, it was one of those things too, is like, I haven't been to Brazil for 3 years. I don't think I ever was in Sao Paulo ever at that city. So I come for the first time. I've been doing this for 6 years at this point, and they've been waiting. I play the first show, it goes great. The second show I wake up and this is people's first time ever coming to see me and I cancel. It's not their fault at all. And I wanted to say it was my fault, but it wasn't. I was doing everything in my power. But I really appreciate you saying that, because I think people's art and whatever it is that creates that art is part of their spirit and their soul. And when they lose it, it hurts, you know? And that's the truth.
Shawn, is it? I'm sure you would love to tour, but is it somewhat relieving knowing you can put an album out? You're not forced to tour right now, or you don't have to tour, and you can kind of save your voice and make sure it's healthy for the
In the
future.
same breath, this album sounds like it was built for
Built
tour.
for tour, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was built. It was completely built for tour, and I think that's the addict in me. I mean, I love tour with all my heart, and those moments are hard, but there's like 99.99% of those moments are good, and there's a small percent of them that are like that. It's just that one got caught on camera, you know?
Did you want to tell your videographer in those moments, like, in my face, like, this is so personal, I don't want a camera on me?
Actually, no, I made a deal with him that that's the last thing we were going to do, because I didn't want this to be a film that was a highlight reel. And I can be a real asshole when I'm upset. And I think I don't necessarily want to hurt people's feelings, but like I get so torn up by the fact that I do things that by the fact I got so torn up by the fact that I lost my voice that I can see in my eyes like, oh man, that guy's kind of like, and you don't want to show that side of you. Nobody wants to show the side of them who gets frustrated and can be like, you know, a jerk or can be crying or vulnerable. But like when you show that side is when you break through and people are like, oh, that's me. Like that's like my whole thing moving forward is if this is not going to be just me in every part of it. There's no point to me anymore, because it's like I really believe that I always try to put myself in the shoes of a 13-year-old in Pickering in Ontario, and what he would be doing if he was listening to this interview. And I could be sitting here just like spilling the highlight reel of everything, or I could be giving the truth and the honesty, and hopefully it's anything that I've learned. And that gives them such a bigger and a clearer way to move forward, instead of, you know, unreal expectations.